Hello, and welcome to Shrink, the podcast for the mind. I'm Philippe, and I talk to the people who want to have a better understanding of their issues with weight and body image. Today, I'm very happy to chat with my friend Nina. Hi, Nina.
Hello, Philippe.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes.
A bit or a lot, whatever you want.
Okay, so I am an intuitive trainer and also a nutritionist. I focus mostly on the movement part of my practice, though. And I also make art that is very much related to the wellness industry and wellness community and health and sickness.
Okay, so you do quite many different things, in fact.
Yes, and I think the only way I get away with it is that the subjects stay quite narrow.
Uh-huh.
And
well, how would you define it, the subject?
Well, it's taken me quite a long time. I started my journey as a trainer I know. I started my journey as a trainer in 2012, getting qualifications and everything by 2013. And I've been practicing since. But the art practice happened exactly at the same time. I was working completely different jobs before. I do come from art, but I was more involved in the gallery system. And I just wasn't happy in the office. I really hated actually working in offices.
I would hate it as well.
Yeah.
I tried a long time ago. But I hated it.
Yeah, exactly. It just wasn't for me. And I actually kind of quit from one day to the other, which was very... I think the gallery still hates me.
Okay. He told me.
It was right before an art fair, and I just dropped them.
Yeah,
and I just
too much pressure, or
it was too much pressure. I was waking up with about 60 to 70 emails in the morning every day before even starting to work, and I will end around 9 p.m. at night. And sitting down at a desk, I almost forgot that I was dealing with art. It just felt like. I was in front of Excel sheets every day, and
it wasn't you, in fact.
It wasn't. It felt actually very. I felt so feral in that environment. I felt like I needed to be out and moving, and it didn't happen quickly. The transition, I guess. I started making art straight away after leaving the gallery, because it was as a way for me to understand a bit better myself, and the practice as a trainer continued because I started making these pieces of work that were inspired by YouTube fitness videos.
Okay.
I just really hated the way they looked, to be honest.
Why?
I
hate them too, but
I found the music really obnoxious. I hated the extreme positive motivation that almost verged on aggression and like guilt. I found it quite guilt tripping actually, and I also found it quite ironic the way in which videos were classified according to body parts. It was like the opposite of. I feel like in life all we want is to become whole and to finally come back to true self, being this like boundless energy ball, and that instead was like, oh, you might want an ass, or you might want abs, or you might want, and like. So it was a very Frankenstein experience of health, and I was like, this doesn't really speak to me. But what I liked about them was the choreographic nature. So it reminded me a lot of dance, which I'm very close to. I was never a ballerina, but I always wanted to be, and I'm very close to the theater and ballet because of my family. And I just started noticing that they were designing workouts a bit like you would design a choreography, or you would create a choreography. So I made drawings, which then were exhibited in galleries, diagrams, and then I performed them. And I was like, the music is not very nice, so I'm just going to change. I'm going to put piano music that I composed myself. And that was my first interaction with that world. And then...
how would you call that world? So when you say that world, what do you mean? Like the wellness world?
Yes,
or
I guess the
fitness world? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All of those worlds. Like wellness, fitness, which I find very... I have a bit of a problem with those words. The word wellness makes me think straight away about sickness, and the word fitness makes me think a lot about again, this like machinic way of approaching health, which I just don't find very relatable. Like, it's very much, again, like you obviously probably very interested in that when thinking about diets, this idea that we can correct and balance things out by adding some of this, taking something out, like almost if we were just
machines.
Yes, and chasing
whatever our lifestyle is,
exactly.
whatever. Exactly.
Exactly.
It's
almost like if the body was like a scale, and we are just, and the mind is the person that is going to balance out the scale, rather than trusting the sort of like inner magic.
And that's when sorry.
No.
And that's when you started learning more about intuitive training, or
yes. Well, I think intuitive training. I came to be more and more into. For example, when talking about intuitive training, what I mean is obviously being very in contact with yourself as a trainer, but also
what does it
as
mean being in contact with yourself? I'm sorry.
No. This is a good question. I think it means to. Well, the word intuition means, to me at least, being able to internally listen to inner body cues. So it allows me to research and regain agency over what I believe is good for me, rather than external factors. Which obviously, so if I think about being in contact with myself, if I'm choosing, for example, how to move, it will mean what's my energy level like that morning, or how I'm feeling. Do I need to be rescued and cuddled, or do I need to instead actually be productive and energized, or just try to really understand what it is that your body's telling you need in that moment, rather than overtraining, for example, at night, which is definitely something that I've been a victim of doing.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just thinking about what I think is good.
No, but when you say that you've been victim
of that, well, I've had my fair share of experiences, first with food and then also with training, and so the opposite of intuitive training is what I've definitely done for quite a few years when I first got really into fitness, which was having an idea of a cosmetic goal paired up with a hyperactive, avoidant mind. When I say avoidant, I mean not really wanting to face up to traumas or to my life experience, basically. And the combination of the two just created a lot of cardio. And
was it helping somehow, you think?
I think it really wasn't, unfortunately. I think it does help a lot of people to move a lot, and like actually can completely reshuffle hormonal imbalances and fatigue and things. But I am a very, very hyperactive person to start with, and
I've noticed that.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. And anyway, which actually means it's pretty much never good for me to overdo it. Yeah, because the moment I start working out for an hour, I can go on for I've had this problem since I was a kid. My mum brought me to a doctor because I couldn't sleep, and they told her to make me exercise a lot. And so she made me do 2 to 3 sports a week. And it just made me more and more hyperactive and more into sports. I actually really love sports. I've always been really into sports, and I love the idea of training and everything. But for me, like things like yin yoga, which is the very slow yoga where you literally stay for 5 minutes in one pose, is what brings me back to life. It gives me a rest that I haven't been able to achieve pretty much anywhere else, even in sleep. But yeah, so intuitive eating means that, for example, one evening being able to switch off and do a really slow type of yoga instead of doing the physio exercises that you think you have
intuitive
to do.
exercising, you mean? Because you said eating, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay, just to make sure. Yeah. No.
So yeah, in terms of intuitive exercising, it means like just being able to know when to start, when to stop, and when you need what. And obviously, as a trainer that deals with that, what I really like is maintaining a level of flexibility within my sessions to really tap into what the other person that is coming to my sessions is coming with, like
So
what do they actually need.
Okay, so you start by chatting with them, or how does it work? In fact,
So the first ever meeting it's got a questionnaire before, and we meet and we talk for like about an hour, 2 hours, how long we actually need to, not over 2 hours, that's quite a long time, about everything, as much as possible actually. The more I know about them and their routines, but also their, I guess, fears, and when possible also a little bit about their personal life, what's happened to them, if they had food disorders before, for example, if they had any obsessive or addictive problems to any substances or whatever that may be.
There's a lot of things. In fact,
Exactly.
And there are goals as well,
Well,
I guess.
they
What
come
do they
with
want
me
to
with
achieve?
goals.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And
Are they realistic, you think? Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
no.
But
I think they come with me with goals, and when they're cosmetic, I usually tell them that I'm not the right person, in the sense that if you're looking for like a mathematical quantification of the progress that you're going to achieve with me, that's not going to be...
That's not what you do.
It's not what I do, it's not what I want to do, it's not what I believe in. What we usually agree on is a state of mind and a certain amount of skills. I'm really into skills. So for example, as a trainer, I can teach you balance, I can teach you Pilates, I can teach you functional training. So if we agree on few things, they're like actually goals that are not to do cosmetically with how your body is going to look, but with what you want your body to be able to achieve.
Yeah, which is so much better. I mean,
I think it's so much
of course,
healthier, and they can try and trick me and be like, well, I'm trying to achieve being a ballerina. Like,
well, we don't try and trick you. I know you would see it.
But yeah, how does your first interaction with a...
Well, it's about this. It's not the same, but it's somehow it's similar, because my clients come to at first they have they want to lose weight most of the time. It's not always about that, but most of the time it's just what I'm known for. So they want to lose weight, and I tell them that I don't know if we will get there, because I ask them how much weight would you like to lose? Sorry, and sometimes it's not realistic, and then they ask me, can you get me there? And I say, I don't know. In fact,
can you get yourself there? If that's...
I mean, it's so not about the weight. I mean, the weight is there, and I get it. That it's annoying, that it's frustrating, that it's unhealthy if you're overweight. I get that. And at the end, yes, they will lose weight. I don't know how much weight they will lose. But it's a journey. And the journey is not about... We won't quantify the journey by the amount of kilos or pounds they've lost. It's more the things they got rid of. The fears, the anger, the anxiety. Yeah. And...
Exactly. And also, I feel like, I don't know if in your experience it happens the same with you, like with you and your clients, but... often, if the goal is cosmetic or quantifiable, and the mindset hasn't changed, or mindset is also a bit of a tricky word, but
no, I know what you mean. Then it's going to be temporary. It's going to be temporary.
And
it's not going to work.
On top of that, you keep going to make new quantifiable goals. So, from experience, from someone that has suffered from food disorders, and also specifically like orthorexia, being really obsessed with health, unless you change how you see your body and how you see yourself, your body image, etc., that well-being, that health will never be achieved, because the whole thing functions exactly on the very... It's based on the fact that it's unachievable. It's based on the fact that you are going to keep chasing it. Because if what you're really not looking at is the real pain and void, and I do talk therapy now, and it's been like actually life-changing. I've done it a couple of times, but this is with a new therapist, and she's really amazing. And I'm noticing how incredible it is to do things differently and to be able to do things differently for the first time, so that then inevitably that will have a domino effect on all the other things, being my body, my health, etc., my eating, my training, my relationships. But if the goal stays within the symptomatic response to those fears and those traumas, for example, it's just going to shift, whether to another subject, like it can go into relationships, or it can go into more health, or it can go in new diet. There's always
I know. Yeah.
the society we live in gives us, like, is the hungry ghost society. It's like it will always give us new ways, right, to new goals, new potential cosmetic goals.
To be better. It's
be
like
better.
we're never good enough, and we can always
and
be better.
And it's built on that.
Yeah.
It's like it's completely built on the possibility of constantly purchasing new, incredible...
Being perfect somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you see some of your clients, you see them... they come and see you because they want to do some exercise with you, and others they see you because you're a nutritionist, or is it always combined?
It's very much combined for me,
but for them at first.
For them is they usually come for me to train.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm trying to think. It depends. It really depends from the years. Some years, it depends because I work on word of mouth, so referral mostly. I don't have social media, I don't have a website, and I usually get clients referring other clients, and that's how it's been working. And so it really depends. Some people I've only had on diets or nutritional plans, and other people mostly on training, and then eventually they'll go into more nutrition. In general, I offer always advice in both cases. Like it's never like, it's very hard to just stay on topic, either nutrition, because they are so intertwined. And it's true though that sometimes clients come to me and they're like complaining about not being able to get there with training, and they're maybe doing a couple of hours a week of training, and then they don't do anything else themselves. And then it's quite hard not to start mentioning also nutrition and general lifestyle. It's like you're working with me for 2 hours, and I'm working against how many hours of a certain lifestyle that you might have. That
it's funny, the idea that you feel like you're working against.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that is part of what we've been talking about. It's just the idea of bringing someone into a space that is like, well, quite foreign to them initially. Then it's a very intimate relation between two people where, like, I like calling myself a movement therapist. I think that's my favorite word, because it takes away the idea of like me training you onto something. There's the idea that I'm getting your true movement out of you. And but unfortunately, if there's like, you know, bad posture, bad like ailments in the body, like with age, but simply walking, like I go through a physio, for example, once a month, just to make sure that
I walk. I think I told you that I walk with many of my clients. So I do walking sessions, and I don't teach them how to walk, obviously.
No,
but I think it really helps to
there's a part of movement.
Yeah,
basically,
there is a part of movement,
like
and
body
it's
movement.
and it makes a big difference.
But it's very much part of the type of therapy that you practice, movement, isn't it, or body language, and
it's part of it. It's not a big part. No. I mean, I would say the big part of my work is to help my clients being kinder to themselves, and saying, okay, I'm struggling. It's hard. I'm judging myself all the time. It's like I'm never good enough. My body is not nice enough. I'm not slim enough. I don't exercise enough. I'm not a good wife. I'm not a good husband. I'm not a good father. I'm not good. It's like all the time. It's like it's endless. It's so judgmental, so harsh on themselves. Yeah. And then at some point, you know, at the end of the day, it's so tiring for them, so demanding. And food is there. It's everywhere. In fact, it's every corner, in every street, in your fridge, in your cupboard. It's there. Yeah. And so it just so easy to grab something to eat and
just get that
for
little
a few
bit
minutes,
of
just
release.
You know, have some kind of release, and then comes the guilt, because it's like, oh shit, I've done it again, and then then it starts again, and that's and I'm really work on breaking that cycle. And I'm not telling them they're amazing, and because I mean some of them are maybe, and I mean what's the point? In fact, it doesn't even mean anything to be being amazing or whatever. I use that word way too often.
We all do. We all
Yeah.
do. I think
but
that's...
just be kinder. Just listen to yourself. Are you tired? How do you feel emotionally? You know, do you feel... are you scared? I mean, look at the world that we live in. I mean, how can you just stay away from that? And, you know, and of course it touches you. Of course it moves you. And it makes you angry and frustrated.
Yeah. I feel there's a lot of crossovers with like my practice as a trainer. There's been so many times. I do feel that because I usually go to people's houses and that's how I train them.
I do that sometimes.
And that's super intimate space because they are changing in between office clothes to training clothes, but without actually changing the environment they are. And I think some of my clients use the walk back home or the drive back home to kind of find themselves and refine their own sense of self before the session. But I've noticed that now that there isn't that transition, they obviously come in straight from work, packing each meeting
I see it as well,
into...
because I see many of my clients online.
And they are not breathing. They are just still with their shallow breathing, just want to make the most out of the session, want to work out as hard. So it's actually part of my care system to make sure that they are in a space that is comfortable but also present, so that we can actually get into the session properly in intuition with their body, for example. So I've started doing a lot more myofascial.
What's that?
So, so myofascial movement is something that I've been growing closer and closer. It's a combination of, I guess, yoga, ballet and Pilates, but with an attention to the connective tissue. I'm not going to go into details because I'll bore you so much.
Yeah, you will bore me.
But the idea is that they're very psychosomatic movements, and they allow... I'm using some sort of acu balls, they're called. They're like spiky balls that you put in certain part of your body and move, kind of self-massaging. Self-massaging yourself. So it's a very good way to get back to the more internal part of the body. So rather than just thinking about the big mover, like even in terms of abdominals, instead of thinking about the superficial part of the body, which is what we usually employ to move, you're starting to think about the more intrinsic, deeper layer of muscles that lies way, way, way underneath the six-pack, for example. And that is essential to breathing and to inner body functioning. So by doing that, you're kind of tuning in. So you're actually anatomically bringing the clients more inside themselves, if possible. And then from there, the session moves into more dynamic movements depending on what the client. And then I always do also a meditation at the end of 5 minutes, just a body meditation, body
so
scanning.
that they're ready to start zooming again.
So they're ready to have a massive dinner that they'll regret. No, I'm joking.
No, but maybe in fact. No, talking about massive dinner, you're very much into. And so am I into intuitive eating.
Yes.
And I think it started with something you've been dealing with yourself. And if you're okay to talk about it, it's orthorexia.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe you can say a bit more about orthorexia, because not everybody knows what it is.
Yes. So orthorexia is quite... I think it's quite an interesting, food disorders that doesn't really get talked about as much because I think it's a lot harder to detect in people.
You don't see it.
Because you don't see it. Yeah. Because it's masked behind just being healthy. So the idea of orthorexia it comes from the idea of having an obsession towards healthy eating and obsession towards health, which usually manifests by excluding a lot of food groups.
And purity.
Exactly. There's an idea of purification and cleanliness. Yeah. And as you very well know, these words are utilized by the very market that sells you the products. So it's a disease that in some ways, or a disorder that is completely facilitated by the society we live in.
It's normalized.
It's completely normal.
Yeah.
Like, actually, you're right. It's not even
not the
facilitated.
disorder itself,
Yeah.
but
No, it's
the
completely
behavior
normalized.
that comes with is normalized.
Well, and even the disorder, in a way, yes, maybe it's not normalized, but it's completely promoted. Like, just if you go to any supermarket, there is an aisle that is gluten-free, sugar-free.
No, I know, but they don't promote
They
it
don't
as
promote,
being
no, of course.
the
They would not.
orthorexic.
This is the orthorexia aisle.
It would be packed though.
That would be actually kind of more honest in a way. But yes, so I struggled with, I think I still struggle in some ways, being part of that industry, not to be a tool of that industry. And I think intuitive eating and exercising has been a great way for me to find a bit of agency within that world. But I definitely I've tried every diet when I was growing up. And I've tried every mode of movement when I was growing up. And there was this...
What were you looking for?
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
No,
I was thinking, and actually I was going to say exactly that. I think there is this innate idea in me that like my body's not well or is not healthy, or there was specifically more there then, and that somehow my mind and the thoughts on my mind and everyone else's thoughts on health know how to heal it, know the perfect recipe, the perfect combination of this or that.
So everyone else but you.
Exactly. So and then I really remember talking to my first ever therapy about feeling like my body was completely hollow and I was just filling it in with things. And so in some ways like a deep disconnection to myself and my body, and in other ways like a real sense of estrangement, can you say that, from my body, like really feeling like it was a sort of plant that I was watering, giving it enough light on the outside of myself, and that has to stay alive. It definitely was about to die every moment, but that I had to keep it alive. And when I say I, is usually my mind I. It's like very much not my soul, my essence, my integrated sense of self. Is very much this kind of monkey brain, like endless self-saboteur kind of mind. And the one person actually that completely brought me back to a much more wholesome sense of health and self was this dietitian that I met moving back to Italy. I moved back a few years ago for 8 months because I actually couldn't cope with things very well anymore. I had a bit of a breakthrough kind of moment, and talk therapy had brought up some traumas from the past that I just wasn't prepared to really face. And so I had to stop talk therapy, went back to Italy and met this dietitian. And at the same time, I started meditating, which has been with me since. And it's been one of the biggest life-changing experiences.
I'm sure, yeah.
Exactly like when you talk to me about breathing and and mindfulness and thinking about mindful eating, meditation has definitely done a lot of those things for me. Allow me to breathe and be more present. And then I met this person, this woman, who's called Anna De Eugenio, and she lives in Italy. And she has a very, very interesting approach to food, which I think is very much in line with intuitive eating, where she works a lot on colors, for example. Colors that you find pleasing, your own personal taste. I remember the first time I went there, I was obviously a bit of a mess. I can actually say that. And she asked me, "What's your favorite food?" And I just said to her, I was like, "Oh, boiled vegetables." And she laughed like so much, actually. She was like, "Come on, what's your favorite?" And to be completely honest, I didn't know.
You didn't know?
I didn't know.
No.
Like, there was no way I knew.
It must have been difficult, that question for you then.
It was impossible.
And what is your favorite food?
Oh my!
No, I'm not trying to trick you. You don't have to answer that.
I really like. Well, I'm Italian. I like pasta.
You said no. You told me you like bread. You like pasta. You like all kind of things because we talked before.
I really like savory stuff. I like chips. Love chips. And
it wasn't supposed to be a tricky question. I'm just
no. There's no
yeah.
There's nothing. I think one of the things that this dietitian brought back was bringing back everything into my diet. So, for example, I had chips. or something deep fried once a week, a list in the meal plan. She did design a meal plan because I was very much unaware of how to organize myself otherwise. But what she did, which was really interesting, it was like a very, very graceful manipulation where she will give me this meal plan, but it will be so designed according to my flavors and my taste, my personal taste.
And so do you feel like you're dependent? I mean, you still rely on her to, or is it just a safe place for you to go sometimes?
Yes, I think safe place really hits the spot for me. It's quite interesting though, because she's very against creating relations of dependency with any one of her clients. In fact, she often doesn't reply to emails if she thinks they're not important to be replied
Really?
on. Yes,
Okay.
she's quite tough like this.
Yeah.
But in a way, I completely inherited that in my own personal practice. I really love the idea that I am sharing knowledge, and then these people are like the people that I'm looking after. I'm going to go into the world with this knowledge, and obviously they can always come back and ask for
No,
more.
it's like a journey that you do. You do a journey together.
But
I mean,
the idea
it's
is
their journey, of course, and
Yes.
but you yeah.
But in a way, I was like, I'm really against creating this clinginess, because as you were saying before, is the most important thing is to finally get in communication with yourself. So you shouldn't be relying, really, ideally.
No, because at the end it's quite simple. In fact, there is the food we like, and there is the amount of food and the kind of food that we need, and the idea is to become aware of that,
Yes.
and to listen to
And
the
same
signals
with
that our
movement,
body is sending us, and saying, okay, I need this quantity.
Yes.
I should stop eating now. I should stop. That's exactly what it is. And so it's not like we're giving them recipes or telling them this is good. No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also, I'm sure that you can say the same.
I'm not
we've
sure.
talked about, we've talked about it, so I know it already. But often people come with specific ideas, but what they end up gaining at the end with this self-awareness, it's so priceless in comparison to what they thought they wanted before. And actually, most of the time, we also understand that some of the things that we want the most is not even what we really want, because it's actually being given to us from external. It's coming from the outside. No, it's not coming from the inside.
And I want to add something to what you just said. Sometimes it doesn't work. We have to agree as a therapist or as a personal trainer. I don't know.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I use the right no, seriously, the right words. Sometimes it doesn't work because it's not the right time for our client.
Yes.
And sometimes they start a journey with us, and then they do the rest of the journey with someone else, or they get back to us.
Yes.
And it's not like a new challenge. What you work on with them and what I do with them, it shouldn't be seen as a new challenge. It's just
no, of course not. And
we've got enough challenges in life for that.
Exactly. I think it brings you back to non-judgmental, like having a non-judgmental view on anything that actually happens to you, like the not being able to continue a journey with a specialist, being a therapist or being a trainer,
or a nutritionist,
shouldn't be then approached with more lack of self-love.
It's such a broad subject. I feel like we could speak about all these things for hours, and I think we should, in fact, but not all at once. So let's meet again soon. And
yes, I'd love that.
Yeah. And
yeah, it was great. It was really nice, actually, for me to talk about some of the stuff that we talk about, because most of my friends are artists and musicians, and they don't want to talk about this kind of stuff.
We've got the same kind of friends.
So it's very refreshing, actually. Thank you, Philippe.
No, and thank you, Nina. So let's talk again soon.
Yes.
And yeah, let's do that.
Ciao.
Ciao.